Well, most importantly, we found a way to win. I think on a night where we didn't have our best, didn't play our best, some way, somehow we found a way to win. And I think the resiliency of the team is what is most important, and what we learned a lot about ourselves, about our program. There's not one thing you can pinpoint. I know it's pretty easy when you look at stats to say, oh, well, the passing defense, or you didn't play well defensively. There's not one thing that you can point at that just says, hey, this is why we struggled. It's an array of things, and I think a lot of those things need to be addressed. A lot of those things need to be worked on, especially coming off a bye week. So it gives us something to really focus on, obviously, as we move forward this week. But the one thing that you can really look at is there's no other way to build character. There's no other way to build the things that you want to do within your program without going through some of these situations. They're a lot nicer when you go through them and you still come out with a win. But our entire winter is kind of devoted to finding ways to put people in really tough situations, whether it's in the weight room, mat drills, different things like that. Our summer is kind of devoted to finding ways to, not just lift weights, not just run, but to challenge guys mentally, physically, and emotionally. Fall camp is basically, in some ways, yes, developing football players, but we're finding as many different ways as we can to put guys in situations where they are almost no chance of being successful, just to see how they handle it. And that one right there is not one that you can prepare for. And I mean that in a way that you're down, you're on the road, you're not playing your best, and you got to find a way. And I think that's the thing that we come out of this thing, no matter what, realizing that there was no quit, there was no finger pointing, there was nothing like that in that locker room, on that sideline, and we came through in a night where we, not in any phase, had our best and found a way to win because of the character, the resiliency, and the love for one another. I think in that locker room, there's nothing else that you can say about it.
Question: How much fun did you have celebrating after that?
Well, if you saw the kick as it went through the uprights, I don't think that there was much of a celebration. I think that's just me in general. My head, unfortunately, was 2 steps ahead, thinking about overtime and trying to think of different things that we could do and help defensively. So as the thing went through the uprights, I didn't have a chance to celebrate. I think all I did was click the switch and say, okay, don't worry about overtime now. And so once we got to the locker room, I saw the joy and the energy of the kids, and their ability to fight back, and it's fun. It's fun to be around those guys, and if you're not around 18 to 22-year-olds with that much energy, then it's tough to do some of those things. But that's why you do it.
You see guys just hanging on the ceiling and decided you wanted to join in, or what?
I'm lucky I'm tall enough to be able to get close enough up there, because I'm not sure the vertical jump. Maybe you didn't see, a couple guys had to boost me up to actually get to the rafters, but you never know. It's just one of those moments that when you see the young men fight as well as they did, as hard as they did, and to see the joy on their faces, you know what, you want to be right along with them.
How easy could it have been to deviate from the plan when you're entering the fourth quarter down by 2 scores and they're piling up points?
I give a lot of credit to our offense, and even down the stretch. If you look at, even when we called timeouts the last drive, we made some, even the kickoff, I mean, we made some things happen, and we're smart with the clock and had timeouts, but, they did a really good job at kind of staying under control and even knowing in the situation what you had timeout-wise, because I'm not sure I was as good a help to them. And my mind was, as I said, hey, you guys got this. Let's be smart, but let's go win this thing, because the way this thing's going right now, we're on the road. We got to take some shots at this, and my mind was kind of on to the overtime. What are we going to do? So even the timeouts and the calls and things like that, offensively, we did a really good job at not trying to do too much, believing in what it is that we do and who we are.
After against Tulsa, that was another team that doesn't have this great of a record, and they looked at that record. Did you feel like maybe that was a wake-up call, and then you have another one, and now another one with another team? How do you prepare your team and how?
That's the reality behind a lot of those things. We don't address them, we don't talk about it in here, but we talk about it as a team. I think the number one thing that we talked about last week was respect of our opponents, and I'm not saying it was a lack of respect, by any means, but maybe a little bit of the focus, maybe a little bit of the true belief, and then you get in those situations, then, I don't have to tell you guys, I keep saying it, 90% of college football, okay, well, you might be, guys with their records are a lot of part of the 90%, but it doesn't mean they don't have abilities. Every week, you're seeing these kinds of things in college football, whether it's Kansas and Texas, or, Kansas State and Oklahoma, and I'm not saying that that's the same thing, but I just mean in general, if you don't come to play, you don't have your best, you put yourself at risk no matter who it is that you're playing.
Is there any danger, like when you're parenting and your kid does something that you don't want them to do, but they get out of it? And
There's a lot of danger in that.
right, and that's kind of what this team has done the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and if you don't learn, it's how we study history. I mean, if you don't learn from history, then you're condemned to repeat it. If we don't learn from what happened this week, and I don't just mean them catching balls and throwing balls, us throwing interceptions. If we don't learn and take a good hard look at maybe how we prepared, the things that we did, then we won't learn from it. We'll be in the same situation again this week. We'll probably be in that same situation again the following week, and we're going to leave a lot of things to chance.
You mentioned the last kickoff by ECU. Has Lenny approached you about returning kicks yet, or?
He made maybe a couple too many cuts, but the number one thing is he grabbed the football and made a heads-up play. He secured the football, gave us the ball on the 35-yard line, and I showed that on Sunday. I said, this is a really heads-up play, and the difference in a ball game, the difference of kicking a 42-yard field goal to 32-yard field goal. They've kicked every ball in the back of the end zone. That ball goes and rolls or whatever. We'll be lucky to get it on the 25 because it's all out of whack. We have that ball at 25 now. Let's say we do. Now it's a 42-yard field. There's a lot of difference in that. So those kinds of things, those heads-up play, there's a lot of guys that did some really good things in that game that won't be overshadowed. There's a lot of things we're doing.
The 3-3-5, you guys have kind of, since the UCF game, used it some, not used it some. Does it maybe feel like now that teams are getting it on tape, there's more adjustments to be made, or?
You can go back and study it. There's always adjustments to be made no matter what it is you're playing. We have goal line defense. We've got some adjustments to be made. But I think when you look at it, you got to give a lot of credit on the other side as well. And I think that there's where you kind of, hey, we're not going to panic. We're not changing what it is we do. We've got the ability to play a lot of different things with a lot of similarities. But it's not the defense. It's not one thing. It's not a guy. And I think that's where you can't fall in love with the scheme when all of a sudden it works really well, and you can't fall out of love with the scheme when maybe it doesn't. It's about the people. It's about guys understanding and believing what it is they're doing. Playing to the strengths and knowing your vulnerabilities. And whether we're on a 4-man front or a 3-man front, whether we're 5 DBs on the field or 3 DBs on the field, there's vulnerabilities to everything, and we just got to do a better job with it.
Like Moj led you guys in receptions. Was he part of the game plan on Saturday to get a lot of targets?
You have a plan, and things don't always go as planned, but we're also not just going to take shots down the field every time. I mean, we opened up with that. Get into the game, and there's the things you got to take, the things that they give you, and they were giving us some of those maybe more shots in the boundary by playing off. So he became more of a part of it. I don't know if we went into the game saying, hey, we want Malik Moj to be our leading receiver, but we always go into a game saying, hey, we have a plan, we have to be able to adjust, and we got to be able to do the things that they're going to give us.
Have you had a situation before, like you have this year with the defense, where maybe you're still trying to piece things together or figure out what's the best system, from game to game it's a little bit different?
No,
or is that just standard?
You want to have variety in what you do. I think we've all been in games, like I told the guy, we've all been in games where there's things that are happening. I mean, a lot of times it's running the football, and the guys are running the football, you just can't pinpoint exactly what's happening, and sometimes you got to go back on film, you're looking at it like, oh, it's not just one thing, it's, a missed tackle here, a missed leverage here, it's a little bit of a gap here, it's just some different things that maybe you didn't see or didn't have prepared for. You can't really prepare for much different on just shots. I mean, there's some really, really big plays. Now, does that mean that we can't do some things better? No, we can definitely do some things better. It starts with preparation. But I don't think that after watching it that there's one glaring thing, oh, if we would have just been in a 5-man front, and we'd have played with 5 defensive linemen, or if we'd have played with 6 DBs on the field, we didn't be able to do. No, it's not that easy. It's a combination of a lot of things, and I think most importantly, that we've got a good grasp of what it is we're doing.
What's it say about Gardner that in two massive situations, he's been able to recognize what's happening, react to it, and make big plays.
Some people would say guys are lucky. Some people would say, well, the ball just kind of finds him. I mean, there's a lot to be said about it. But I think what it does, I mean, it's a guy that we have a lot more confidence in. It's a guy that has shown up, whether it's just those big plays. That's not just what he's done. I mean, obviously those are the ones that are easier to recognize, but throughout the entire camp and throughout the entire season so far, he's done a lot of things to earn respect of us and to earn playing time. As we make this stretch run, he's going to see a lot more.
I know you touched on it a little bit after the game, but I feel like this is kind of the number one thing fans are worried about right now. The reports with Mike possibly getting a job out of USC. Do you feel like that has any effect on your future here?
I hope the fans are worried about Saturday at 3:30. At least that's what I know we're worried about. So that doesn't worry me of any sorts. Don't know anything about it. I mean, if you didn't see Saturday night, there's a lot of things to keep me occupied. So that's probably the best thing is I haven't seen, do not know, don't really worry, other than 3:30 on Saturday, and I hope the fans are the same way. There's some really good things going on, so whatever's going to happen, going to happen. But most importantly, what's going on the football field is the here and the now.
You guys talked in the last week or so?
No.
Football questions?
Well, now that, maybe more generally, but now that you're in your third year as a head coach, what do you need from the administration to help you be successful on the football field?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, right now, all we really focus on is, hey, we got a game on Saturday. We got 3 more coming up. What's going to be in the long run? You know what? In the off season, that's when you sit down and you start to think about those things. Like I said, the good fortune is we had a really tough one. We had a really close one. A lot of things that we can do a lot better to keep a lot of your focus. So if you have idle time and you had 2 weeks off or something, it might be something you sat down and said, hey, if this thing ever changes, let's go talk about this. But if there's anything that's going on, if anybody that's called me, if any of you called me, you probably didn't get a response unless you had something on some pass coverage or some recruit that's out there in the local area that I need to check on. Otherwise, for us and for the 18 to 22 year olds that sit in this room right here, I expect them to stay locked in, and I expect us as a coaching staff to stay locked in as well.
You're the number 1 rated Group of 5 team now. You're the only undefeated team in conference play left in the American. Is there a sense amongst the guys that everything is right there for the taking and you have to keep pushing?
Well, I hope so. It's not something we talk a ton about, but I hope that they understand that. We do talk about our run and the things that we still have in front of us. So yeah, we're not dumb to not think that they don't realize that. We don't use it as propaganda and send it out, but most importantly is it's about where you end, and it's about how you play at the end and how you're going to finish. And I think that's where hopefully this wake-up call of not playing our best ball on Saturday can really help us to lock in and focus and not worry about a lot of those other things and what records are. ECU's got a bad record, but they were pretty good that night. And it didn't matter what they were ranked and what we were ranked and what the spread was. So I think as players and as coaches, that's always the tough thing as you run down the stretch of a season, especially when it's going well.
Are you a team now, you've won 18 of your last 21, now they have to realize that you're going to get everybody's best shot?
I hope they do. I mean, we talk about it. That's one of those things we do address. That you're going to get the shots, and I don't know if we quite understand what that really means. I think that we're always fired up to go play, but that also means that you better make sure that preparation-wise, it doesn't matter what a guy's record is. We were in that situation last year. Nobody knew who we were. We hadn't won more than 4 games in 3 years, I think, in the last 3 years. So, a lot of people were gunning for us or circling us. And it might be a little bit different now. Shouldn't change how we prepare, shouldn't change how we go about our things, but it should to make sure that we have a little bit of heightened awareness to what it is that we're seeing.
On tape, without David Pendella quarterback, does UConn do anything different offensively than they did last year?
Yeah, they're different. They got a different offensive coordinator. They got obviously a different quarterback. So they're a bit different. They don't run the quarterback nearly as much.
Are we good?
Thank you.
Thanks.